Hey, that was Coldplay, and the song is called Square One, and you're wondering, why would you play a song called Square One at the beginning of our computer science assignment? Well, all right, so here it is. We're working with while loops, right? Looping in a computer program, and we are not going to do anything complicated today, trust me. But we're going to write a program that will calculate squares. Square one, Coldplay, square one, that's why. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Just, you know what squares are, right? You're looking at a square table right now, and it's just like 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3. That's what they call a square, and it's easy to look up a square table and see all those answers. But what we're going to do is write a quick computer program that will do this kind of math and spit out a result so that we can see it. Okay, so let's hop to code.org. I had trouble finding it. I got so many tabs open. All right, anyway, there we go. Found it. So, watch and maybe you know how to do this. Do you know how to do this already? Can you write a computer program that will calculate squares and spit out the results and quit on its own? Right? That's part of it. It's got to quit on it. It can't just run forever. It's got to quit on its own. All right, so what we're going to do here is really, you could use the draw loop or not. I think you could get away without it, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to start with a variable, and every time you make a variable, if you're declaring a variable, you have to use this first block, the var command here, the declare a variable. This could be called whatever. I'll call it number. Sounds good to me. And I'll start it at 0. All right. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to have it calculate squares. 0 times 0 is what? 1 times 1 is what? All right, so the next thing, we can go on to the draw loop here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring over our while loop. We said that a good way to translate while is as long as. And so what you do is you set a condition in this hole, and whatever you put inside the loop will continue to happen as long as the condition is true. Okay. So I'm going to set this up. While number is less than, and then this is where you can pick a number to set a limit. I'm going to make this thing calculate squares up to 500. So really, to make that work, since I'm using a less than symbol there, I'm going to put while number is less than 501. Okay. Now, the next thing is going to look a little bit weird. We haven't done a lot with this console.log thing, but I don't want to spit the result out on the draw screen over here. I want to spit it out someplace else, and it's going to wind up being down at the bottom of the screen, but I'll show you here in a minute. All right, so what we've got to do here is I'm going to go back to the variables drawer, and I'm going to bring over one of these console.log blocks. All right, and what it does is kind of force the output of our program to go to a different window, and I'll show it to you here in just a minute. It's not going to go into the draw screen. It's going to go someplace else. Now, the next thing's going to look weird. I'm warning you. Sorry, got a little cough. The next thing's going to look weird, but trust me. Do you trust me? I'm going to go to the math drawer, and I'm going to bring over a plus block, and I'm going to drop it in there. And I'm going to bring over another plus block and drop it in I want to drop it in the second hole so that it winds up with looking like I've got 3 holes there. All right, so it's a plus block. And then I brought over another plus block and dropped the second plus block in the second hole, so it sets up 3 holes like that. Okay, now here in the first hole, this is going to be, I just want the variable that I'm working with to appear. And that's just going to be number. That's what I called it up at line 1, so I have to stay consistent with my variable name. In the second hole, this is going to have quotation marks around it because this is going to be what's called a text string. So I'm going to put a quotation mark. I'm going to leave a space here, and then I'm going to say, squared equals, and then I'm going to leave a space there on purpose. I did leave a space there on purpose. I'm going to put another quote. Anytime you have quotation marks inside there, it's going to spit out exactly what's inside the quotation marks. And then in the last hole, I have one more, excuse me, I have one more hole to work with. In the last hole, I'm going to put a little mathematical operation here, and I'm just going to type it. I could have used another mathematical block to do it, but I'm just going to type it. What do you do when you're calculating a square? You take the number and you multiply it by itself. So I'm just going to take number. Notice that does not have any quotes around it. That's the variable. The computer symbol for multiplication is what? It's the asterisk key. Shift 8 on the main keyboard. You might have a number pad that has a star, asterisk on it, but it's Shift 8. So it's going to say number times number. That's what squaring something is, right? Take something and multiply it by itself. And so it's going to look like that. So this should spit out, it's going to say like 0 squared equals, and it will calculate 0 times 0. Notice that number times number does not have quotes around it. So that's going to be a mathematical calculation. It's using the variable to come up with a value. All right, then on our last little thing that we've got to do, we said this yesterday, if you have a while loop, if you don't want it to turn into an endless loop that just runs forever, and like, with this kind of thing on code.org, if you don't do this next step, you could very easily crash the website. I mean, crash your window, not the whole website, but you could crash your window really easily because it gets caught in an endless loop. All right, so you got to do this. Go to variables. And don't bring the var command over. We're not declaring a variable. We're going to assign. We're going to calculate. We're going to change the variable. So we're going to use the third one. Bring it over. And this is just going to say number equals, and you just increase it by 1. Excuse me. Number equals number plus 1. Like that. Right, and that increases the value of the variable that I'm using. I called my variable number, right? So, and I've got this loop set up to keep doing it until it hits 500. It's going to keep going until it hits 500. It's going to tell me what the square is. 1 times 1 equals 1, and 2 times 2 equals 4, and 3 times 3 equals 9. And it's going to keep doing that. And it'll keep going. Now, when we run this program, it's going to spit the result out down in this debug console down at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead. There's 3 little dots on that bar. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up so that when I run it, that window will be kind of open, and I'll be able to see the result. The result won't show up right away because the computer kind of does the whole loop calculation and then spits the whole thing out at once. Here we go. Run. Little delay there. I didn't hit run. Sorry. Oh, there we go. It made it. And the length of the delay will depend on what you set your limit at. So if I go down and I look at this debug console down here, oh, look at the result that I got here. See, this is what I mean by a square table. We wrote a computer program that would do this calculation. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. Those are all easy squares, but then as you get higher, just a quick, off the top of your head, what's 55 squared? Well, there it is, 3,025. And so, boom, and mine goes up to 500. Yours will go up to whatever limit you set on your while loop. But this is it. This is all we're doing today. Astounding, isn't it? School should not be this easy. We wrote a computer program that will calculate squares. Look at that. All right, you could rename this and call it squares or square table, right? S-Q-U-A-R-E-S. Boom. Save that. Bingo. Fist bump, all done. See you later.